Alright, I guess we'll get started. We are going to... we've had some people asking about the Fed Up organization chart, who to go to about what sort of things, and we have put some work into that. I'm going to post it now into the announcements channel. Hopefully that goes up. Super amazing upload speeds go.
Do you have fucking dial-up?
Look, man, I live in the fucking sticks. I have line of sight internet.
Beep, beep, beep.
Fancy.
Make sure you hit the open original button.
Yep, so a lot of people have helped out with iterations of this, and this is what we finally settled on. One of the things that you will notice right away that I want to talk about briefly here, everybody may quickly notice that Ash Darathi has kind of bumped down from the Alliance Command position. Fortunately, right now, Ash has got a lot of real-life stuff going on, and he's got a little bit of other projects in the works, so we've moved him into roles that he asked to be in. Actually, we gave him a little bit more responsibility than that, but you know, and he's going to still be around. He's here tonight. Hi, Ash.
Oh my gosh.
You want me to speak to that for just a second?
Yes, go for it, please.
Yeah. So, as you guys have noticed, I haven't been around a lot recently. A lot of that is because it's summer, and so my son has required a lot of attention, and my family, you know, doing real life stuff. But beyond that, you know, whenever I'm absent, Contra and others do a bang fine up job of keeping the war machine going, and I'm very confident that the leadership, as it is, kind of understands the general goals of Fed Up and all that stuff, and thus I'm kind of allowing the people who are making the decisions have the position that they rightfully deserve. So in that sense, I mostly wanted to focus on new audio-visual work, working on tutorial videos, possibly like an update kind of video for Fed Up every 1 to 2 weeks, various other things that I want to work on in order to kind of make sure that, you know, work on those sorts of things that can be my strength. Whereas the data, you know, making sure the military war machine goes and you guys all have something to shoot at, by far is being handled by very competent people.
So day to day, you guys probably won't notice much of a change. It's going to be kind of business as usual. I don't think it's a super big mix-up, but we do have some other people moving up into positions that I wanted to kind of speak something about real quickly. We moved Javin up into an Alliance Director position, heading the military. So congrats, Javin, and also congrats on passing your licensing test. Badass, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Zoran is Alliance Information Director. He's been in that role before. Pedro has been doing a lot of the Alliance level stuff for a long time now, even though he didn't have an official position, and now he does. And we bumped Popcorn up to represent the EU as far as the Alliance directors. So those are kind of the top 7 people at the top. Not much has changed in there, adding a few people that were already kind of filling in some of those roles, but all good things there. Further down the line, that changes in many ways are Alchemisa stepping up into head of personnel. He is now going to be directly managing the Alliance Mentor Program and the Alliance Recruiters. So we appreciate you stepping up into that position. And then we have Yan stepping up into the head diplomat position for Fed Up. And we've also recognized Keltoran, who's been kind of lurking in our command channels as our high-sec counterpart. And we are doing some work to kind of integrate our high-sec operations a little better into what Fed Up does on a daily basis. So those are the changes, or at least the new faces that are in positions. I also still have an opening for somebody to manage OxUp. So if you want to take on more responsibilities inside the Alliance, it's not a big, huge, busy job. But we could use somebody in that position to get a hold on whose alt corp is what and standings and do all that stuff related to OxUp. So if you're interested in moving into a more senior position in the Alliance and you're looking for something to help out and do, come see me. Alright, so that's that. We're going to kind of start backwards in time a little bit. So I'm going to hand things over to Silver for a minute to talk about how we got to where we are today. With operations and such, so I'm going to let him go, and then we'll talk about future.
Hey guys, I know there's been a lot of chatter around our relationship with
the Imperium specifically. We call them goons, but goons is only one small part of the Imperium, and that's sort of important to know going forward. And as I go through the history of things, goons is an alliance in the Imperium coalition, right? There's many parts of it, and also we say we're a faction warfare alliance, but we spend a lot of time in nullsec. There's been a lot of CTAs, important fleets. So how did we get here, and why are we here? Kind of goes back to the beginnings of FedUp, right? There was in the very beginning of FedUp, it was right around the Alpha program that opened up. The Caldari had scooped up a lot of alphas, and it looked like for the first time in a long time they were very strong. They were pushing on the war zone pretty hard. The Gal Mill at that time was coming out of a civil war. We weren't that unified, and it seemed like the Caldari are capitalizing on that. So when we formed FedUp, we wanted to reinvent the militia a little bit and be that strong face to push back on that emerging Caldari threat. As it turns out, that job was a little bit easier than we expected. You guys pretty much kicked ass, right? We swept the south of the war zone, for those of you who were here in the very beginning of the days, pretty quickly. And it wasn't long before the greater Gal Mill got behind that effort, and we were very unified, and we swept the whole war zone in really just a few weeks. And every time that happens, things get stale as far as enemies to fight. And at the time, we had stuff like Black Shark Cult, we had Hecon, we had these strong entities that were great enemies to fight, and that's important for an alliance to have, right? We have to have that enemy that we're fighting. But after that, Black Shark Cult kind of disappeared. Hecon kind of retreated back up into, that Okamon pocket up there, and Templars was doing their thing. They don't really care about the Warzone, having it for years. So around that time, it was the summer, a little over a year ago now, where we were looking for something to fight. Lowsec is always going to be that place you can roam around. There'll always be random gangs to fight. Solo activity is great, but when it's devoid of an enemy to fight, that's when we look to something else. So our initial move to nullsec was around that. We had conquered the war zone. It had kind of faded. CCP had announced that, hey, those player-owned star stations out in Null will be converted to valuable faction fortizars to whoever owns it on such and such a date. So we figured, hey, why not take a shot at that? Why not go to Cloud Ring, where there's entities of our size or bigger, have somebody to fight for the summer, since the Caldari are kind of, passive at the moment, and we'll see if we could get a fancy fortizar. We learned a lot in that summer camp. Solve mechanics was completely new to us. Some of you guys remember we'd get up at like 5 in the morning and go fight this stupid Solve timer and lose by 1 node because of Griffin attacks. We were doing it in VNIs and like stupid chips, and we had no idea what we were doing. But over that summer, we grew a lot. And then CCP pushed off the date of that Fortizar conversion to work on other things. And we're like, shit, we put all this work into having the ones we captured in Aslot along with other Gal Mill guys. We should probably hang around and try to get the prize, right? So that kind of summer camp extended. And during that extension, the Caldari seemed to come back. All of a sudden we're looking at the war zone and they're taking systems, tens a day, right? And they're sweeping across the war zone, and it looked from the outside like, wow, the Caldari are really, kicking some butt. And we sort of allowed that to happen, guys, right? We sort of allowed them to scoop up the South, even though our mandate has always been, we're going to be the protectors of the South. Sometimes it's healthy for you to let the war zone burn back a little bit. Caldari's LP goes up, they start gaining some confidence, they get some money in their pocket, and our enemy becomes stronger. Well, though faction fortizars did flip, we went through a hell of a campaign with Tissue, Black Legion, GOTG, various other forces of the North coming down, for those of you who were there, capitalizing on these timers that Tissue was putting forth on us. During that time, it gained the attention, and if you remember one of my other war updates, during that time, the political climate was some forces of the Imperium, like the Initiative TNT and those groups, and even Condi Goons proper, were doing special ops up in the North and poking at the North, The pandemic horde had moved out of the region, moved to Geminate, and that sort of left a gap open for all these other groups to fill in. So the Imperium had their eye on our region. We were the border between, what they considered their half of New Eden and the north half of New Eden. So when GOTG and Black Legion, all these people were pushing on us, they offered their help, and we kind of needed their help. We were doing fine there for a while with Ardra help and some other Galamil help. But when it came to GOTG showing up on our Fortizar, we kind of accepted the help from the Initiative, TNT, two big groups that were there, and then eventually, Asher showed up with Condi, and they were really respectful to us, right? They were gracious. They liked how you guys fought. They didn't talk down to us as militia or anything like that. They very much treated us like we could be future friends. That conflict ended. We got our prizes. And the war zone looked good. So if you remember, we came back to the war zone, and the greater Galamil wanted to make a push back, figuring the Caldari have had enough time to get their act together. This should be fun. We should have a good couple of months of conflict with the Caldari. Again, that didn't really happen. We set up an OICX as our focus there was to break the Caldari hard, right? Strike for the heart, go for OICX, and demoralize them. And that was like a 2-week bloodbath, if you remember. And it sort of worked, because at the same time we were doing that, the rest of Galamil were burning the whole war zone. We were taking systems just as fast as they had. We were attacking their structures. We were blowing up all their ancillary infrastructure. And really, in like 3 weeks, the conflict that we looked forward to was done. The block kind of gave up. Templates was like, yeah, well, we're going to go practice for the AT now, and before you knew it, we were tier 3 pushing tier 4. And we didn't get the conflict we wanted. So about the end of that conflict, Contra had been talking to the Initiative. Things were heating up with that conflict I was mentioning before. The Imperium was really starting to set their eyes on punishing groups like the CO2 who took some space right next door to us, or, a Darkness who is mortal enemies. And Contra was like, well, if the Caldari ain't going to fight, maybe we can join a smaller group of the Imperium, and maybe we could get some work done, and make a name for ourselves. Right at that time, guess what happens? A Goon Keepstar is dropped in 6RC. And sort of blew up our sort of softer plans. Because with that Keepstar in 6RC, a lot of people will say, well, FedUp has to blue Goons, otherwise they're going to lose their space. That's partly true, but we always have the option, right? We could have said, no, we don't want to be blue with Goons. We'll just leave the area and we'll go find something else to do. That was perfectly a viable option. But where would we go? Can't come to Losec. There's no enemy to fight. There's no person to get into a conflict with or, drive goals. So in order for us to continue our plan with Initiative, we have to be blue to the Imperium. They have 800 supers staged right next door. They have 400 people in that system at any given time. If we weren't blue, we couldn't move anywhere. We would just get gate camped and blacked every time we tried to step out our door. So the blue with the Imperium is to allow us to operate the way we want to operate in the area. So for any misconceptions, we don't owe the Imperium anything. We don't pay the Imperium money. They don't tell us what to do. They don't give us orders. We respectfully, listen to their request. Like the other night when we wanted to attack that unanchoring Fortizar, we were kindly told, don't do that, there's a plan for that, and we respected that. But overall, we're not told what to do or what we can't do. So the blue with the Imperium is to allow us to operate in that area. And guess what? They're pretty good friends. They're pretty nice to us. They come to our aid if we need to. It hasn't been like we call goons and 400 of them save our butts. It's been pretty good. We've been working with, Fwedit, who is the U.S. time zone wing of the Initiative, who have been pretty good. The TNT guys showed up to our Saab fight, and there were only like 20 guys. It's been really good for us to make new friends, to get into different types of conflict. As you can see, Contra and I and a lot of others have been seeing the slow decline of faction warfare and Losec from a bigger gameplay for a long time, right? It started really with the Astra Houses and the Citadel expansion when we lost the strategic advantage of taking systems in Losec. And then moon mining changes happened. And now I know we've argued over this a bunch of times, but that was a bad change for Losec, in my opinion. because we can't do it effectively. And really, you've cut out a lot of what the corporation and alliance level income was. Moon mining used to be something done by leadership, and that money would typically go into corporation level or alliance level coffers. It's a little bit harder to do that now. We've been making it work. Prague is amazing at taking some minerals that we have and running reactions and doing all that stuff. We would be broke without him. But you could see all of the major groups that were in LoSec slowly starting to fall. And you had EE, who was an extremely powerful group in LoSec, failscade, just completely fall apart. You had Shadow Cartel, who was a monster a couple years ago, slowly dwindle away, and they're gone. And now we're faced with the fact that the block, pretty much I consider one of the main faces of the Kaldari militia, the guys who took pride, the only ones, besides Hekon in some cases, that took pride in system control and played into the faction warfare, has up and left faction warfare. I don't know if some of you noticed yesterday, but the block were in that fleet that we fought, and they were not in faction warfare. They're not only leaving faction warfare, they're leaving the entire region. They're going to join Shadow Cartel, and they're going to the other war zone to do pirate stuff. Then Templus comes back and says, all right, we're not going to leave faction warfare, but we're leaving the area. They're hard deploying to the other side of New Eden, somewhere around the area of Great Wildlands probably, to mess around in NPC null and look for other things to do. So what I should be doing is congratulating you all. You won. You've defeated the Kaldari militia. It's a little bit bittersweet, but think about it. If this was Pureblind and you kicked, CO2 out of their space, everybody would be going ecstatic and you'd be like the heroes. But here it's a little bit weird because faction warfare at a higher level is now broken. There is no more enemy to fight. There'll always be Kaldari around. There'll always be small gangs running around LoSec. There'll be solo content. There'll be all that. But an alliance of our size, we've already taken the war zone, but what, 4 or 5 systems now? It's very close to 100%. How do we maintain a level of activity that's good for a group our size in LoSec now? And as Contra stated, I think it's only going to continue to get worse because those groups are leaving. Guess who else is talking about leaving? Huge is looking to deploy. Ardraw is looking to deploy. We're going to deploy. Templus is gone. Block is gone. It's going to snowball for a while. I think LoSec is going to become pretty desolate for the foreseeable future unless somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to be Kaldari militia. And that's happened before, but it hasn't happened in a while. So if you're wondering why we have this focus on nullsec, why we're blue with the Imperium, it's because we're trying to keep us active with enemies to fight. It's very important. I think it's the lifeblood of any alliance. Once you've lost your enemy, you sort of lose that drive. Roaming around and fighting random gangs around it is fun, but after a while, you start to ask yourself, why are we doing this? What are we gaining? How do we grow? So we're going to have to be open-minded and look to the future and find other things, other enemies to fight. That doesn't mean we're going to leave faction warfare. It's our roots. It's who we are. It gives us a unique pool to recruit from. We're not going to give up a foothold in LoSec because, there's that content there that I like to do still too. I like to sneak on. You might see me every once in a while sneak on when I'm supposed to be working and do some comet roaming by myself. X-Ray's fleet tonight we're going to do after the Sota here with just roaming around in a small gang and fighting in LoSec. All that is perfectly viable content, but we have to do something more. We have to keep our objectives high. We have to fight people better than us. We have to keep making friends. So that is why we are going in this direction. It's why we've developed this path, because we've seen this coming for a long, long time. It's why I ran for CSM. It's why I went to FanFest and sat in that round table, which was a packed room. And I got to be honest with you guys, I was very active in that room. If you've listened to the recording of it, I looked Fozzie in the face, and it was blank. I asked him and what we could do to improve the military aspect of faction warfare, and he turned around and asked me the same question back. I kind of believe in my heart right now the CCP wants faction warfare to remain a low-scale thing that people do that want to do some PvP, want to do some role-playing, but the larger scale gameplay is in nullsec. I think that's what CCP wants, and that's what they're going to get here. So I've reached the end of my rant/explanation. I'll leave the future to Contra, who's done an awesome job, guys, at diploing. Like, I just hope you can appreciate that we're blue with Imperium with no strings attached. Not even those guys over in Luck are blue with the entire Imperium. They haven't asked us to do a damn thing. They haven't told us to do anything. They haven't, other than drop their keep star on our backyard without telling us, they haven't really. They've left us alone. And as long as we, fight on their side and engage groups that they are engaged with, this couldn't be better. So I just wanted to give that spiel. I hope it clears things up. If there's questions, let's ask them.
All right, real quick, I'm going to kind of jump in here and take on from here what we're looking at. I do want to point out, like Silver said, a lot of us have seen the writing on the wall with faction warfare space for a long time now. I personally have been running fleets in low sec and faction warfare space for a long time. I was talking to Silver earlier, and I remember a time when we lived in Niswa with X-Meta, and we had 12 dudes, and if we left Niswa and roamed as far as Tama, we would run into a fleet to fight and either die or go home with a big fight under our belt. And it's been sad to watch that kind of dwindle. That's one of the things. I think it's been out long enough. Maybe I'll post the Templars meeting, but one of the things that they pointed out too is that the move from roaming fleets and just fight happening to timer-based warfare with the Citadel expansion really changed the landscape of a lot of part of the game. So if you look at groups out there that are doing well, that are prospering, it's groups that have seen that writing and have diversified themselves in anticipation of changes to the meta of the gameplay. If you want to look at two big low-sec powerhouses as a perfect example of groups that diversified and groups that didn't, and the Shadow Cartel Snuff example was probably the best one. Snuff saw the writing on the wall as soon as they announced the moon mining changes, and they expanded what they do for content and how they do it. They ended up joining the Imperium, which is different than what we have got as a temporary blue for the war. We have no promises of any kind of long-term commitment or friendship from the Imperium more than join Be Blue for the war. But they joined proper and have been still Snuff that everybody knew. They still come back and do their low-sec pirate stuff, but they also participate in all of the war stuff and gave themselves a bigger avenue to have content and fight with. And then on the opposite end of the scale, if you look at the Shadow Cartel group, they did not do that. They stuck to low sec and they sat in their keep star with their caps waiting to drop on people. Had nobody to drop on because of diminished activity in the area, and eventually fail skated. Now they are trying to come back and recruiting some low sec corps like Block, and they recruited 2 Maidens, 1 Chalice from the Amar side. And they're trying to rebuild now over in the Amar war zone back to their pirate life, but they messed up that. They missed the chance to be ahead of the curve and continue to grow as an alliance, or at least to continue to operate as an alliance with people that are engaged and care about what you're doing, by kind of missing the train. Snuff did the opposite, and they're a strong group, and they're very active, and they obviously if you put the two side by side, they were probably close matches for each other before all that, and if you look at them now, there's no comparison. So FedUp has been on that train. If you look at the groups in Caldari versus what FedUp has done, I think we're in that exact same position. We diversified our content at probably a little about a year ago when we went to Null. We originally did it for a summer camp, but stayed and worked the content when the war zone was slow. And you look out today, what we have, and you have Caldari that finally came to the realization that you can't sustain on just what's left there, and now they have to completely reinvent themselves. And we are still in a good place because we have those avenues available to us. So for us, we're lucky. We are already ahead of the curve, and we can move forward and try to keep growing and become something. And that's going to kind of lead me into what it is we are going to do for the next couple of months, probably at least. The Warzone, like Silver said, in my opinion, after years and years of watching it, I think over the next 2 months is going to become a really sad kind of place for a little while. When Block's all the way gone and moved out, Templars is supposed to start ops next week in their new space. So as those groups leave, as Ardraw, as Pen is Out deploys, as Huge deploys, as we deploy, the little small groups, the little pirates, the little solo guys that stay, hang out in the area, are going to start to disappear because the people that they used to fought or engage with are now gone. So you're going to see that area kind of dwindle even harder over the next couple of months, to the point where it's going to be pretty sad, in my opinion. So we are going to continue pushing our null campaign for at least the next few months and kind of see how things shake up. What I imagine faction warfare will be for us will be more of like recess at school. It is a part of who we are. It is where we came from. It is what a lot of you guys enjoy doing, a little bit of that. So we'll probably still try to utilize that, but it'll be something that we have to do on a smaller scale. So just like, like I said, just like recess, it's your break when fleet's not going on, when the groups aren't grouped up. It'll be a good place for you guys to go wander around, searching for smaller content in small groups of 2 or 3 for brand new FCs to go take out some frigs and desis and go wander around. Time will tell how bad it really gets as far as targets to shoot at, but it'll be okay for that still, and I want to try and maintain it as that, and maintain who we are as a big faction warfare alliance. That being said, we didn't get to where we are as we are and as successful as we are by putting all of our eggs in one basket. I think we really made a name for ourselves in New Eden, not just from being only a faction warfare corp. If you look at people that start talking about faction warfare on Reddit, our name almost always gets brought up, even by third parties. People know who we are, they know what we do, and they know we fight. So that's what we're going to continue to do. As far as this war in the North goes, I know there's going to be some frustration. There's 2 things that are happening. One, it's our first real mixing of combat with the Initiative, who is our primary group that we are engaged with out here as far as allies are concerned. While we're blue with the Imperium for the conflict, the Initiative is actually the group that we are working kind of hand in hand with on objectives. We have not pinned down that relationship fully. There's just a lot more red tape involved in an Imperium organization than there is in a smaller group, like when Iron came out and worked with us. One of the things I've been working really hard on, and I know Init's been working on it and pushing too, is a comms setup where we can do some joint ops, whether it blops or our numbers are low or their numbers are low, we can jump into one fleet. So that's something that we are working on. They really enjoyed working with us, and they have already mentioned to us that they wouldn't mind continuing to be blue after the Northern conflict. So far they're a good group of guys, and I look forward to kind of exploring that a little bit more. Because one of the big things for me is getting everybody in one fleet and making that kind of better and more organized. I know there can be some frustration. One of the things that's different about this conflict versus what we've done in the past is that we are out fighting kind of the biggest groups in the game, and they're all banded together right now. While we have a big group on our side, the group on the other side is equally as big and nasty. Unlike before, where we were fighting a small entity, we're now, when we go out and roam, you never know what we're going to get. Some nights we can go out and we'll get a relatively even fight, or some nights we'll go out and 60 Munins and Dreads will show up. That's just the nature of this conflict in particular. I don't think it's going to be the norm for what I want Fed Up to do in general, but it is what we're going to have to kind of deal with a little bit for this particular conflict, just because of the nature of it. It's a war in EVE on a scale that hasn't really been done in a long time. So it's basically one half the game versus the other half the game. If you look at sheer numbers in EVE, Sec is a absolutely huge portion of that, and right now pretty much all of Null is on side A or side B. A little bit different, and some nights can be a little bit frustrating for that content, but we'll keep exploring ways to make that better, and we'll kind of adapt. It's why we started doing some more Blops Fleet, which you guys have responded very positively to and enjoyed. That's a way for us to leverage our size and fight. We got an awesome Barger kill the other night doing that, so that's something we'll keep exploring a little bit. But we are going to hopefully push a little harder to get everybody time zones to commit a little bit more into our null activities, just because of what we're looking at as far as the Warzone wise. We've had a lot of good activity in all across the board in all time zones. So I know there's stuff out here to fight, and I'm gonna hopefully we can work together to get that worked out a little bit and everybody fighting on the same page again. It really is necessary for us if we're going to continue to move forward to push down this avenue, as this is the way the game is going. I mean, nostalgia is good, and we could all wish that faction warfare wasn't in the shape it is, but that's life. That's what it is. So we'll do what we have to deal with, and we'll all hope that a big group like CO2, moves into Caldari next week, and we can go back and play that gameplay. But I worry that nothing's going to change in that zone unless CCP steps in and finally does something to fix some of the problems. But that's where we are. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to kind of ride out this war. It seems like it's dwindling down. If you look at Fade, it looks like Goons and even us with a system have started taking systems there. CO2, there was talks about them pushing back further north. So hopefully as this war goes on, we'll find our place in it. And then next conflict, I'm looking to do something on a smaller scale than the big giant war. So ideally for me, if I had my choice in the matter, I would find something to do with our new friends maybe within it, and find a target that's more our size, where we don't have to worry about all of the north or all of the south jumping in on the fight, and do something a little bit more low key. So that's what we'll be looking to do kind of after this conflict wraps up. But we have to build the building blocks. We have to, prove that we are, a decent fighting force, and that we're good allies, and that we're reliable and show up and help out where we can. So this conflict will be a little bit of us paying our dues, and that's just the way it is. But that's the state of the game. That's where we're at, and we all look forward to having fun together doing it. I think we can do that. I think we've already been doing that, but like I said, there's definitely avenues we're going to try and pursue a little harder to get some more even fights. We talked about doing some more T1 roams up there, like you guys did the Canes the other day. Even if we get blobbed and died, just so we can have some more engaging content. Maybe hold off on our Ishtars for big super clutch stuff, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, hopefully when the dust clears and the war is over and those areas that are now being cleaned out fill back in, maybe emerges a group that we can have fun with.
Rain?
Rain's dead.
Yeah, Rain.
Rain is actually dead, like.
Questions?
Really?
Concerns? What the fucks?
Yeah, I got a question. I know that you guys don't know who or when some big entity will join CalMill and do that, but is that like the long-term thing? Like all the stuff you're talking about, we're diversifying, like you said, and doing this, that, and the other with the war, and then after the war, maybe picking on somebody with initiative. But like, is the end game plan to be Galente Militia and fight whoever the next guy who comes into CalMill is? Or is that just kind of like, if it happens, it happens?
I mean, we are a content organization, I think is what I would like to everybody to consider us at this point. Our roots are still faction warfare. We're not leaving faction warfare. I would love it if a big worthy group came into faction warfare and we would fight them. Certainly, if groups come around that we're able to go fight, I will go fight them. Those of you that have been around have known.
Row.
Contra?
Have known that Contra has bad internet?
Backwoods internet.
Robbie Ripper has asked if there's any plans with OTAC A.
We've dropped a TCU and OTAC A. I want to put an iHub there and start working on it as both content and an IS generator. I'm trying to be patient with that because that whole area is still super, super hot.
I got disconnected.
Hey, I was just going over quickly before you finish your thought. OTAC A, what the plan was there. We put a TCU there. We've claimed the system. I'm trying to be patient on an iHub drop because that area is still a super hot war zone. And I'm just looking for the right timing. We could just say F it and drop it and start ratting there and see what happens. But I'm worried about losses and things still.
Isn't that luck space technically?
Luck took some of it. I spoke to Luck directly. They were only dropping TCU so that others didn't. I told them I would like OTAC A since you guys have bled over a lot of those systems in the EU time zone with those SOV fights, and they agreed. There was no pushback on that. The Luck guys in addition, the initiative have been really nice. They really enjoyed our Blops fleet the other night. I got lots of messages about the conversation was nice, and you guys were fun to hang out with. So they're cool. But go ahead, Contra. So if you left off with, as many of you know, blank, blank, blank.
Oh, I have no desire for us to sit around and not do anything. A couple of weeks maybe of downtime, and I'm already pushing us into the next conflict. So if somebody shows up on our door that we can fight in Faction Warfare Zone, I will put us down there, and we'll go to war. I don't, like I said, I don't want to completely disconnect from Faction Warfare. That's not our goal. It's not been our goal ever. But I want us to be realist about what the war zone looks like. Right now the war zone is like a deer that got grazed by a car at 60 miles an hour, and it's wobbling and dragging itself off the road. That's the kind of shape that the war zone is in right now. So we have to be real about that. I don't want to put my hands over my eyes and go, oh no, everything's fine, and meanwhile people fade into nothingness because the content sucks. So I can't promise that somebody's. Yeah, sure.
So one thing that's also important to note is that this is just about what our organization is focusing on, right? What our infrastructure and our command are dedicating our attention to. And the reason why is because when the war zone gets to this state, it's not a high complexity issue, right? Like, it's just, hey, 2 or 3 guys go find some plex, go find a plex and run it, right? Like, we literally couldn't organize an effort right now because there just isn't an effort to make. So don't think that because our military command is doing nullsec operations, like, obviously CTAs are very, very important. Go to your CTAs, but don't lead that to make you assume that we think that lowsec isn't important. It just doesn't require our full military command's attention at the moment.
That's a very good way to put it. That's sort of what I was trying to get at before, and I was saying you'll find me in a comment Roman solo and lowsec. It's still a good place for that. But well said, Ash.
Yeah, they say success is directly proportionate to the size of problems you can solve. And faction warfare right now is just not a very big problem. And we can sit in our little bridges, or we can put on bigger pants and solve bigger problems.
Another very well good put it. Yeah, you guys are awesome.
I mean, technically, faction warfare as a whole is a problem, but not in terms of us actually needing to participate.
Yeah, we're talking about things we can control, right? Our content.
It's not a problem we can solve in any case.
Right.
I mean,
many of us who've tried.
CCP's headquarters.
That's sort of what I try to do at FanFest. But the good news is, I don't know if you guys read Reddit or Twitter and stuff. After the Block and Tempest announced their plans, Twitter and Reddit exploded. I've not seen faction warfare talked about this much ever. So hopefully that yields something, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it.
And CCP is not completely blind to this. The CSM have been warning them about this for a long time. Jintown has long been a fan of lowsec. Innominate has long been a fan of lowsec and been trying to change like high-sec war deckers as well. There are people know about this shit, and they're telling CCP about it, and we're hoping that they'll wake up with like everyone leaving.
I'll put this in a way that I've said this before, but if you're really passionate about lowsec, if you're really passionate about faction warfare, one of the most healthy things for faction warfare in general right now is for Fed Up not to be in it. Not that, like I said, not that we're quitting it, but not to be there. It's the same thing with groups like Templas. It's especially true for groups like Wang's, even Huge. The problem is that if Fed Up were to sit in Fleet right now, I said, okay, Caldari's gone. We're going to be in Fleet. We're just going to, roll the rest of the systems, and we're going to sit in our castle in Fleet and laugh. Any new group that came in there, we would just roll over there right away and stomp them. We're seasoned. We know how it works. We have a large player pool to go off of. We can run 23-hour system campaigns. So if somebody new rolled in, some new poor group rolled in and said, oh, we're going to try faction warfare, we would just smash them immediately. So being not there. Yeah, Black Shark Cult quit because of us. I mean, honestly, that they folded because of us. That their leadership would even say the same thing. So I mean, you demoralize and beat somebody hard enough, and they go
Well,
away.
Even Templars opened their Sota, and maybe we should post it at some point. It's probably no secret. With they were worried that Fed Up is going to return from our null campaign in full force again soon. So,
Are we the
We keep
are we the
breaking our
low-sec
toys.
boogeyman now?
Are we the real bullies?
I mean,
We're the bad guys.
You guys have a reputation. You've been getting news coverage about how tenacious you are, how relentless you are. You don't stop. Like OICX for a few days looked like we were making no progress. And the block and the Caldari are like, Fed Up can't defeat our home system. And you didn't stop. You broke their will. Tissue. When Black Legion showed up and we just threw canes at them like rabid dogs. Like, people must be like, what the fuck? You have that reputation and it's great, right? So we just have to keep applying that somewhere.
Just blops them a few times.
Yeah, I mean, look how many times we were in NullSec. Alliance after alliance, group after group came in and said, you guys are just faction warfare scrub lords. I'm going to blops you twice and you'll go home to NullSec. Never happened. We're still there. So we can't be that big, tenacious bulldog and, like Contra said, and run off the poor new groups that try to revitalize faction warfare. So maybe it is healthy that the big, strong groups are sort of jaded even. Just leave for a while and see who else steps up to the plate.
Federation uprising, killing alliance and coalitions one corp at a time.
Yeah, I mean, guys, Squad, remember those guys? They're nothing anymore. They joined Imperium and live in Delve. That was
Funny how that goes.
What?
No one could kill Sarkos until we killed Sarkos.
We have a fucking massive corpse basement in Udi at this point. Like, remember fucking Dread and Caveman?
Yeah, Dread and Caveman.
Well, those guys are still out in solitude.
Yeah, but they proudly pronounced on Reddit that their main objective was to come and smash Galmel, specifically Fed Up.
Jesus fucking Christ, you guys are starting to sound like goons.
So when do we full deploy against Conoco?
Oh no, that's terrible.
We already are.
We tried that, man. Yeah. Conoco is like a joke. I mean, no.
We did. We sent our one-man army to Mirko.
We did
he left for TNT.
Basically,
He has been
Arbiter
running a
and
fucking
Bears,
train on Conoco the last days.
Yeah,
We did a whole campaign against Conoco and kicked the shit out of that system. And
yeah, we flipped their home system too and beat them up for a couple of weeks. We've done that.
The problem with them is that he recruits people straight out of JITA and uses them. So there's always going to be nerds in there that will flip it back. So unless we wanted to move in permanently and really just destroy them that way, we'd have to like move in there for a month or 2 months to get rid of them.
Well, he also makes an art of flipping it back and forth, right? They farm the shit out of that stuff.
I had 2 questions.
Can I have a question?
Well, Casey first, go.
My first question, which I'm not sure if you can answer, do you know if Huge are going with us to deploy or if they're going somewhere else?
Excellent question, Contra.
They're going other places. Huge is... I don't think either of them have decided yet where they're going, but neither of them, I think, are going to deploy with us on the Northern War. Neither of them want to get involved in that war. I think that's probably good for us for a little while. So everybody's going to kind of go do their own thing for a little while, and it is what it is. So we'll still stay in touch with like Gardron and stuff, and if they need us, we'll come fly and help them. But as of right now, it looks like they're going to deploy to separate places.
And my second question was actually about industry, because as the Alliance grows, would it be a good idea to try to recruit more industry people to help the Alliance?
Yes.
Yes, we need more industry people. The problem so far that I've run into with industry corps that want to join us, and I'll be real frank from a Fed Up leadership standpoint. Mostly what I get is groups that want to come in and have access to our SOB and give us discounted ship prices. Well, we've got guys in here that do indie for Fed Up because they bleed Fed Up, and we already pay at least cost on indie stuff. So giving a group access to SOB that we have to protect just to get costs on ships is not a viable thing for us. So it would have to be somebody that wants a ratting group or a mining group where we get first dibs on buying their ore for it to be anywhere near worth the time.
Yeah, I don't need you to build hulls in Udi for me. I mean, shit, I could just ask Banex, but build me 500 maulers tomorrow and he'll do it. I don't need that. We need people that are willing to mine the ore and give us first dibs at it. That would be a better arrangement.
Honestly, I think people just need to make ISK and fucking pay the markup and use jump freighters. That's how like nullsec alliances work generally. You just pay the markup. You can make the ISK.
Yep, you're right, except we're not a traditional nullsec alliance, right? So the one thing that we struggle with, it's gotten better actually, now the goons are next door and our space is relatively safe. But prior, when we were out on our own, ratting and money making in nullsec was sort of sporadic, and that's both a product of the Cloud Ring is very busy. Its TrueSec isn't great. We don't have money moons, and most of our group doesn't stay in Udi unless there's something specifically to do in Udi, right? You don't find, and I want to try and fix this somehow. But, we always kick around standing fleet issues, but if there's not a fleet posted, we have nobody on. There's nobody hanging out in Udi or on comms or in and around our nullsec area. So it makes the money making a little dangerous and a little hit and miss. Sometimes it's quiet and you can do well. Other times it's a fucking shit show and people just go do something else.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's going to be probably the biggest issue that we have moving forward is maintaining a sense of community now that our content source is dramatically changing.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay because we have a precedent, right? We've been doing this model for over a year. We've had this split, homes. We have Fleet and we have Udi and we have that split, and we have guys that are doing low-sec stuff and guys that are doing null-sec stuff. I think it'll be okay. It could be improved on, though.
If I can make a quick interjection. The thing is, I don't think I'm alone on that. People generally don't like PvE all that much. They do prefer PvP. So
in our group, absolutely, yes.
We only PvE to make money.
I want to get the crabbing over with fast, and I want to get the optimum out of it. And right now, that's faction warfare missions.
Yeah.
The money is absurdly good. I have no reason to be in order to make money.
And that's fair.
Let me be clear. One of the biggest reasons why we do all of this is because ostensibly there are people that want to do these activities, right? So one of the reasons why we've always, if any given thing doesn't bother, isn't your thing, then that's fine. But other people will be interested. And if you're a combat person, then just pay attention to when the miners are putting up requests for defense fleets, because those get kind of interesting.
Yeah, dude, if you're a solo or a gang guy, pay attention to where our own guys are ratting and mining, because they're the best bait you could ever have.
Yeah, you should be in communication with every ratter we have.
I was trying to get some perspective out on why people are maybe not using the null space as hard as they maybe do.
Well, no, when you're talking about pure ISK making potential, the Pure Blind and Cloud Ring are kind of shit. It's not great Sov. It's not Fountain or Delve or whatever. But we're still gonna have people that want to go carry a rat because they've never done it or whatever.
Ethereum had a question a while ago he never got to ask.
To be honest, historically, we've actually had problems maintaining our PvEers because we've done a relatively poor job of defending them. But we've also done a lot of thinking about that, and are changing that a lot and trying to become more friendly for that, which is why we're talking about defending our mining fleets and all that kind of stuff. Because if we can create an environment that's good for those miners, we can then get those miners. And as far as we could import it in, but here's what's critical. Money that's being imported in is money that's leaving the alliance. Someone still has to mine it. So if those miners are also in our alliance, then all of that wealth is retained within the alliance. That concept is one of the things that have always built us as being big. One of my private strategies since the day one of FedUp has been to try to exploit the resources that we have as much as possible.
Yeah, did Ethereum want something? Because he's a good one to chime in on this topic. Did somebody say he had a question?
Yeah, it's my turn.
Yeah,
go ahead. Yes,
sir.
A question.
I just had a question about nullsec. Is it the first step of something, or we're just taking space that just are empty in Zerotech A?
I don't. My plan is not to move us into and it's hard to say because I don't know what the landscape of the North is going to look like when the war settles. But I don't necessarily think that Fade would be great space for us, being that far away from people that would be considered our friends. I would much rather have indie pockets someplace else, but we're not currently taking SOV to utilize that SOV immediately for any kind of money making or living or doing anything else. One of the main reasons we took the OTEC ASOV is because our SOV timers are in our main time zone, and if they want to take it back, then they have to fight us in US time zone, which is a great way to draw content. A lot of the null guys a lot of the big null groups do exactly what some of the faction warfare groups that I kind of frowned upon for it, which was they talk shit about their own content. A lot of the nullsec big groups don't like the SOV fighting. They don't, and I'll be the first one to admit that there's problems with the SOV fighting, just like there's problems with nullsec or I'm sorry, with faction warfare and plexing and that kind of stuff. There's problems with both of those systems from a mechanic standpoint. But if you shit talk your own content and you can't find a way to enjoy it, what you end up with is less content to be able to try and enjoy. So one of the things we've done as FedUp is we've learned to take the content that some people shit on and find a way to make it entertaining and fun where we can all have a good time. I don't think there's a whole lot of people, and there's always going to be a few because I can't make everybody happy all the time, but like the system sieges in faction warfare, even though the actual act of owning the system meant very little as far as system control and keeping the SOV or keeping the system afterwards, I think pretty much everybody had a shitload of fun on any one of our big campaigns we did, and especially our system sieges, right? I mean, you find a way to make that fun and enjoy it. SOV and nullsec to me is the same thing. I think that a lot of those groups are missing how to make that fun. When we did a lot of our SOB defense stuff in Cloud Ring versus Black Legion and Tissue, I had a lot of fun with it. Breaking the fleet up into smaller components and having somebody run toasters and doing Overwatch and bouncing around and engaging small targets back and forth. To me, that's dynamic gameplay. And if you can take that gameplay and find a way to make it fun, you can have a good time. And in my opinion, it's a lot more dynamic than the 2000 versus 2000 tie-dye fest. So I don't want to, if we're doing no content, I don't want to be above anything. I don't want to be above going back to doing plexing. I don't want to be above doing SOV grinding. I just want to find a way to put spaceships on grid and have other spaceships ram into us and get shit blown up. That's the goal.
So the reason why we would have new territory in Fate is just for content magnet. There's no other reason.
Currently,
for now,
and I'm not going to say I have no intention right now of taking SOV and Fade unless something crazy happens, like whoever gets put there becomes our friend and they want us to have this system. Having some better SOV than what we currently have wouldn't be terrible, but I have never considered Fade a place to do that. So right now, the main reason for taking it was A, they don't have it anymore, and B, it's now able to be put closer into our timers of choice instead of Cancer, AU, or EU, where we're not as strong. Although I would argue that we're just as strong at EU, we just aren't doing the same things currently. You EU guys have been super impressive lately.
I mean, you're talking about content, like we shitpost about bashes all the time, but whenever we're on any other kind of fleet, people are like, "Oh, this thing's vulnerable. We should bash it." So
yeah, it's still hard to tell, right? I have no idea what the North is going to look like when the Imperium is done with it. So it's sort of hard to plan what we're going to do.
Rorquals everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, the Imperium isn't even looking to hold that space.
No, they're not.
There's excellent space for them, and what they're running is just basically a scorched earth campaign.
Yes, you notice that's why they didn't attack the TCUs right off the bat. They were going after iHubs to bring jammers down. They're after the infrastructure. They want to kill Keepstars. That's what they're going to do. Whoever winds up in Fade after the fact, I have no idea. It could just be that they retreat and Darkness moves back down. I don't know. We'll have to see how that pans out. It's really too early to tell. I think there's several months left of this conflict to go. A lot of them are retreating north, but there are a lot of Keepstars up there, and I know the Imperium has their eyes on them.
Can I ask a low-sec question?
Mm-hmm.
Are the Kaldari militia that are leaving, are they taking down all those citadels? Or if they're not, are we planning to blow them up?
Another great question. Contra, go.
Caldari, at least Templus, I don't know about Block. Can't speak for Block, but Templus is planning on leaving their structures. For me personally, and for what FedUp is going to do, is we're going to leave them be, because I would like to see faction warfare recover at some point. So, you know, a good way that I explained it to other groups was that if you've ever watched a ghetto fight video on the internet and one guy knocks the other guy out, I don't want to be that guy that goes and jumps over there and just keeps kicking him in the head when he's passed out. Like that, to me, that's not very sportsmanlike. It's not, faction warfare.
If he's passed out, he can't even feel it.
Yeah, to me, it's pointless to me. I really don't believe in it at all. They're gone, and so every one of those bashes is going to be uncontested, boring. Force you guys to go sit in there and shoot at a structure that's not shooting back, and B, it just moves further to make it a wasteland that can't recover. So FedUp will not be participating in removal of any leftover block and template structures. We will show a sign of respect for enemies that have been our enemies for 5 or 6 years, and maybe they'll come back one day, maybe they won't. I have no idea, but I don't want to be that guy that goes and kicks the guy that's passed out in the head. That's just not who we are.
Awesome.
Sort of like what happened with Sarkos too, right? When Sarkos was leaving, we sort of let them bail out gracefully. We kind of purchased their structures at a discount and let them go. We took a lot of shit for that, and we'll probably take shit for not wiping the Caldari out completely, but I'm with Contra 100% on this. There's no reason to go over there and blow shit up.
Ardraw and Huge are planning to kill every one of the structures that they leave behind. So I hope that they get bored after 1 or 2 and they realize how boring and tedious that is and they give that up. I spoke my mind on it, but I don't control all of Galmill. But I would appreciate it if you FedUp guys show good sportsmanship to the enemy that is obviously defeated at this point.
So, connected to that question, it's like, do you want us to stock the market in Fleet? Or do you want us to try and stock the market in Null?
I think that's pretty well underhand. Alchemista is one that's been marvelous at that. We got stock sheets for both. I think both markets are relatively healthy, and right now I think there's not a problem in keeping that. If I'm wrong, somebody could speak up. But
I just meant I want to do it for fun, not because But I figure if I'm gonna do it anyway, I might as well.
I'm gonna chime in here. If you want to do it for fun, by all means, get in on it. I would say if you stock stuff in Fleet, you're definitely still gonna get customers. If you stock stuff in Null, you're definitely gonna get customers. I mean, some of my stuff sits around for a month and a half. But every now and then I'll just be like, wait, where did I get a couple million ISK from on this random alt I have? Oh, someone bought 500 Warrior 1s from me. What the fuck? Okay. And so, it does help. It really does help to be able to go in. I mean, I remember yesterday for Fleet, we went in and there were no target spectrum breakers on the market. And that's a problem in Tycho. And so that's a problem. So really any sort of contribution you have, check out the industry channel, check out the sheets, see what we have none of, see what we're low on, check out the pins to see what the rules are for stocking the market. But if that's something that you enjoy, please get into it. Even if something you're like, oh, okay, we're not out of that. We still have 2 of the 10 medium auxiliary nano pumps we need. Bring in 10 more and just let them sit there. It's good for the alliance, it's good for you, it's a good way to make passive ISK, and it's really, really helpful. And I got to give props to all the guys who stock the market, all the guys who do industry, all the guys who build stuff, all the guys who make blueprints and all that shit. There is a lot of behind the scenes work that goes in to people being able to just turn up at one of our forts and say, okay, I don't have the shit we need and I can instantly get it. That's
I'll
one
echo
of our
that.
strongest points that I think is not called attention to enough is how much infrastructure we really have for just almost a pure PvP group, is that we have really good dedicated industrialists and logistics from a moving shit standpoint, not a healing boat standpoint. So I just wanted to throw that there. And if you want to get involved in that, please, for the love of any gods you like, do.
Are you
It's
saying
one of
Eulogy
the-
is bad?
No.
There's always more.
And in fact, you're right. You guys are the unsung heroes, right? It's one, if not the biggest reason why we're so successful is that we never have any shortage of ships. In OACX, we bled thousands of ships. Never were we out, or even close. I wasn't ever worried, ever. And that allowed us to be as relentless as we be. So,
when I joined you guys from CalMil, the first thing I noticed was your alliance contracts were stocked. All the doctrine ships, or most of them, I could just buy off contract. And your market in Fleet was stocked. Like, maybe you guys are used to that being the way things are for you, but no alliance in CalMil has that. If you want... Like, if you want like a ship to go solo in, you have to bring it in from Jita yourself. If you want a doctrine ship for fleet, you have to go get it from Jita yourself. Like,
There's no alliance in any militia has this.
Yeah, you guys... That was the first thing I noticed when I joined you guys, is how on point your fucking, like, market stock and alliance contract logistics are. And that's really awesome.
Keep in mind that even goons, to a certain degree, do not have this level of organization. Like, if you look at the market on the Keepstar next door in 6RC, you'll see there's a lot of like market PvP going on, a lot of like cheap 0.01 ISK buy orders for people who don't know what's going on or like who do things accidentally. And for about 3 weeks after they moved in, they were buying many modules from us in UDI. They didn't have some sort of organization that said, okay, here's all the doctrines we need. Here's all the things we need to have supplied. And so even with goons buying us out almost every day, you know, a whole bunch of guys in UDI just kept the market stocked so that you went in there to get a Ferox, you would have a fully fit Ferox in your hand in 30 seconds or less. So props to all the guys who contribute to that shit, even under enormous pressure. That's all I gotta say.
It's because 95% of the time you're getting gouged by your alliance mates, and you guys aren't gouging us.
Yeah, it's
like in other places I've been, you're getting gouged, like generally.
We'll probably need to buff some of the solo and roaming ships up in UDI a little bit. It should be probably our primary market for a little while. One of the things that's going to be important is that you guys, a lot of you are going to have to relearn how to solo and small gang in a different environment. And it's just going to be something you guys need to get out there and do and try to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Because some of the things work the same way they did in LoSec, and some of them don't. It's something I had to learn when we first started coming to Null. But there's plenty of room to get good kills, especially with the region the way it is right now. If you go set up bubbles in some system, you can get all sorts of things to kill. You know, just sit there with a couple of guys.
I'd like to say something about security, honestly.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we haven't done a lot of that you guys really should think about doing is cheap frigs and desi roams can still find all sorts of things to kill. There's all sorts of stuff roaming around in the regions up here currently, so you guys just need to get out there. Yeah, quorums. There's just all sorts of things you can do still. It's just going to take some adjustment from you guys to get out there and learn how to do it. But the content is here. You just had to adjust and learn how to get to it. Go ahead, Joe.
I think I know that we need a real intel channel and people have to fucking contribute to it. Because if you're talking about people wanting to rat in security and mine and secure or whatever, most of the time you know when enemies are like 5 or 6 jumps away from where you're doing something, you know?
We have that.
We have that, and no one... I would say it is not very well used.
It's a culture thing. Guys, it's a culture thing, right? We're not an all-second alliance.
No, I know, but it's a mindset that people have to get into.
Yeah, it'll take time, you know. But
we
like
also
I said,
don't live 5 systems out.
Right. Our footprint is very, very small. So if somebody's coming from Fade, we won't know until they're in our, you know, constellation.
Until they're in UDI, because 6RC is so crowded. I mean, people do this. So people like me who go in and out of Null on a regular basis do say like, hey guys, watch out, there's a gate camp in 8R, or there's a gate camp in WTAC 4 or something like that. But like, usually what we're doing is we're operating in our own space as opposed to Wang space. So, you know, if Ethereum sees someone while he's mining, okay, it goes into Intel channel. If Lydia sees someone while he's ratting, it goes into Intel channel. We just have a limited footprint, so we don't have scouts 5 or 6 jumps out like maybe other people might.
Well,
yeah, but theoretically,
said, if you're gonna get used to like roaming around and finding the content in Null just like you would LoSec, you might want to get in the habit of dropping what you see in the Intel channel.
I believe there's a joint Cloud Ring Intel channel. I'll double check on that and get you guys.
Yeah, we should have the roles for that.
I think there is. Yeah,
Luck is probably the most active one in there, but Luck mines like 24/7. They're very PvE heavy, so they post a lot of intel in there. So it's definitely something that we can join and be a better part of, both for getting intel for things to kill and having some post your intel. And to answer the questions, I mean, what I think we're going to be moving forward is a hybrid alliance, and I want to really focus on that. Sometimes we have to focus on one thing more, and that's just the way that life's going to be. Everybody's going to cross their fingers, but from here, just like we were a week ago, we still are today. We are a hybrid alliance. We do something different, and we do things in a different way than any other group. And that's who I want to be. That's what I want us to move forward. I don't want to swear off faction warfare, but I think we would be doing the majority of you guys a disservice. Now, there's going to be people that are going to be like, this is stupid. I'm never going to go there. I hate it. And there's nothing that we can do about that. But we'll lose more people. We'll lose the bigger majority if we sit there with our hands over our ears and pretend there's not a problem. This is how it has to be.
I got a quick, easy question. I've been out of town a lot. Who is Lucky, and what's our relationship with him?
It's Luck. Violent Fortuna, I think, is their alliance name.
Violente Fortuna, I think, yeah.
It is.
Yes.
They just live in the rain pocket next door. They are blue with initiative. That's how they got that spot. And that's how we know them. And they live the constellation to the left. Like if you go up to 6RC and make a left, that constellation up in Cloud Ring is where they live. Small group, very small, much smaller than we are.
The first time I saw him was in that Black Ops fleet, and I had no clue who the hell they were.
Yeah, and those guys were so eager to join that because they're the PvP guys. They'll get no content from them normally. There's like 4 or 5, 6 guys in there that really like PvP, and they come hang out. I feel kind of bad because one of them came to my fleet in EU the other day and got blown up by TNT. They don't have the same standings we do with the rest of Imperium, so they struggle a little bit. But they live up in that small constellation up there, and they're a small group, but they've come and helped.
Yeah, they're kind of like Imperium, or not Imperium. They're kind of initiative renters, if you want to call them that.
Okay, gotcha.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Nigel, are you asking a question or?
You first. I'll go.
Okay, I have a question about infrastructure. So I'll just name 3 structure, and I would like to know your opinion. Sotillo, jump bridge across Cloud Ring, like we discussed at some point, and then Keepstar ourselves. What about those?
Complicated.
One of the things I probably would like to work on first is that if Init does agree to be blue with us after, well, they said they were interested in being blue with us. What we'll probably do first is get access to a Sodio, one that we can use, and that'll probably be step number 1. They're very expensive. I have no idea what Goons is going to do with the Keepstar. We are not financially in a position, unless something changes, unless you guys start ratting up a fucking storm, to buy it when they move out, if they even offered it to us. I know people have joked and said, maybe they'll give us the Keepstar when they move out. That's pretty unlikely. I would say there's about a 3% chance of that happening, maybe less.
You heard it here first, guys. Rat up a storm so we can buy the Keepstar.
Wait. So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, I mean, there's always a chance, right? They could be like, "Oh, well, you guys
that was
are
a
awesome.
Dumb and Dumber
Here you go."
joke. I'm sorry. I was trying to make a Dumb and Dumber.
But
one
not-
thing
I got it, Silver. I was going to make that joke.
Nigel, I think, is next. Nigel?
Yeah, I want to back up a little bit. You talked about bubbles and bubbling gates. Do we want to have some sort of policy on how we go about that so we don't catch friends and we know we alert people? And I mean, is this an Intel channel thing, or do we need to back it up to the Discord?
So we'll worry about that more so when Goons move out. Right now, there is no need to be bubbling inside of our constellation because all you're going to catch is blue. There's very few things that are rolling through Uti these days. Every once in a while, you'll see like a frigate fleet roll through, but the presence of friendlies in this area is so strong that we don't really need bubble camps in our areas. What would be good is if you set up on like a through pocket in Pure Blind or Fade and set up drag bubbles to catch people. It would be like PvP content coming to you. It's just another thing to do that's not, just roaming. But just like moving to any region of the game, the biggest part of it from an FC or from a soloing standpoint is just finding out where the busy systems are that the enemies hang out in, and then what areas they roam in. I mean, those guys roam. Horde is deployed up here. Those guys will go out and random stupid shit and roam around. We just killed the Vargar the other night. He was just roaming around. Had we not been in Blops and we'd been in a Caracal fleet, he probably would have fought us then too. So there's shit to come out here and fight. You just gotta work it up and find it.
Was a question that if you do set up a bubble camp in Pure Blind, do you need to tell anybody about it?
No.
No.
So one just additional comment on that is that while if you set up a bubble camp in Cloud Ring, 95% of the time you're going to catch friendlies and piss them off. We have enemies who regularly set up bubble camps in Cloud Ring, and I keep a close eye on the Cloud Ring kill board, and I see we lose a couple people every day to them. So if one thing you can really do to get a fleet together really fast is take out some Frigs or Desies or something like that and clear out the bubble camps that are in F7C or Oscar TAC 0 Hotel. Like it's really there are people there almost every day.
All you got to do is go back to LowSec. You'll find them.
Right. So either way, you try to go back to LowSec. If you go through Okagaiken, there's a lot of times people are in 8R, YI, or PPG. So keep an eye out. There's content to be had, and they'll come to us to a certain extent. So probably don't bubble camp our space, and maybe even try and clear out some of the bubbles that people are throwing up in our space.
If you really want somewhere to bubble camp, go to EC TAC P, I believe, and bubble the Torinos gate and camp that. It's a high sec, null sec gate, pretty close to JITA, and it gets pretty high traffic.
Any other questions? I'm going to wrap up with a few fed up specific going ons before we end. But any other questions I want to speak of?
Anybody out there being like, fuck, this sucks? No? Don't be afraid. It's okay.
Oh, fuck, this is going to be awesome, guys. I'm so excited right now.
Shut the fuck up, Ren.
What's the TLDR?
Yeah, don't let it turn out that tomorrow everybody went home and started complaining to each other in private channels. Oh my god, I hate all this.
Right.
Yeah, we're very approachable. Yeah. The TLDR is that faction warfare is seriously wounded and bleeding, and that we are doubling down on our other content for the time being until something changes with that. We're not giving it up. We're not forsaking it. We're not saying it's terrible. We're not saying we hate it. But you have to be real. Anybody can look and see what the actual state of things is, and being that what it is, I want everybody to double down on the content that we do have, and we'll make ways to continue to push you guys into good content. Please don't be afraid to come and talk to us. I know there's been some people that had a bad taste about Null right off the bat and pushed through that and gave it another shot, and have started to come around and see the light of it. Jay, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Jay was one of those, I think, that maybe you kind of, were really turned off right at first, and maybe now through trying it a little bit more, or kind of seeing that it's not terrible and you can have fun out here too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking for my opportunities out there. I understand the low sec situation, although being LP manager kind of makes my job easier. But there's money to be made out there. I think that's the big thing that people overlook is there's tons of ISK out there.
If you guys don't know, Cloud Ring is actually an area where there's gas clouds for like drug production and stuff. Like that's actually one positive thing of Cloud Ring.
Yeah, good one. I need to start mining.
Yeah.
So
well, I don't know how well it's camped, but I mean
it's not the best gas. It's for drop boosters, which kind of suck. But yeah, it can make some money. Yeah,
but it's also used for improved exile, so it's used for the.
Yeah, it goes. My point is, it goes through swings. It's going to be the market gets fucked with quite easily. It's there. Totally do that. Yep.
And our particular area has the highest concentration of that gas of anywhere in EVE. If you go into wine space, you'll get like tiny patches of it.
You're telling me Asalot is full of gas?
Yes.
Asalot is full of gas. Anyway, Contra had some closing thoughts.
That's a lot of gas.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, don't get hung up on the sex status of the system, right? We're always going to be looking for the same sorts of content, no matter what system it is. We want to be in our 30, 40, 50-man gang. We want to fight somebody of equal size or slightly bigger, and we're always after that. So if it's in a null-sec system, if it's in a low-sec system, it's the same content. Remember that.
Kinda.
With different mechanics, but we're not
still shooting nerds.
Exactly.
It's still really fun to get into a comet and roam around, even if you're in null.
Yeah, put an MWD on your blaster comet and go fuck people up.
You got to be a little more careful around gates, though. Like, having gate ping is a pretty big deal in null.
For sure, yeah. You got to make some bookmarks, but...
Okay, closing thoughts real quick. One of the things I'd like to see from our industry guys, if any of you are listening, I would like to see some more VNI's contract fit, not parts on the market, but up on contract for our newer guys that are maybe not very good at knowing how to fit it, that aren't doing their due diligence, getting on fleet up like they're supposed to, but have some of those readily available. Same thing with some entry-level mining ships. I'm going to work on making sure we have some fits for those and get them up on contract so there's more opportunities out here. Please do some roams out here, EU guys. Try to do some of your roams out here and find some content out here. Learn to love it. Mumble has been working good. I think we got it mostly ironed out now. It's set up in a way that seems to be working very well for us. It seems like we had a little bit of growing pains with that in the first week or two, which is pretty typical for any group switching over to a big comms platform, but everything seems to be working pretty well now. So I appreciate everybody's hard work on that, especially Sven. He's the guy that has to put up with all of our, well, let's change this, or let's change this, and we changed the leadership setup with different ranks. Please go fix all of Discord. So I want to take a second to give a thank you to Sven. He's one of those guys that works a lot behind the scenes and probably doesn't get a good pat on the back very often from everybody. But a lot of the stuff that's been put into practice over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been his doing. And if you see him about, tell him thank you. He does a lot of work for us.
Thanks, Sven.
Is he here?
Yeah, Sven's here.
Oh,
I've just
thanks.
been quiet.
Thank you, Sven.
It always impresses me how
and
much.
I just wanted to let y'all know that I do now have a second in command. So if you guys have a problem with anything related to the IT stuff that I do for FedUp and I'm not around, ping Jay because I have set him up with all of this. Well, I'm going to set him up with all of the stuff that he needs to basically do what I do in case I'm not around.
And I appreciate that.
Next week, we do have a high-sec thing we have to do. So we'll be buying tags if we have to. If you have shit sec status and you can't do it, we have an Asbel to defend from our buddies over in Malro. So we will go to high-sec. It's in Hull. So we are going to go over there and make sure that thing doesn't blow up. So it'll be a CTA level fleet. We will buy tags if we need to. I will put instructions and announcements for that, what you need to get paid back for those tags. If you could spend some time doing some ratting to get your sec status up on your own, that would be awesome. Otherwise, we'll take care of you.
What day is that so we can plan?
Pockets, which day was that?
Saturday 0100 0200, somewhere in there. I'd have to double check. Saturday morning
Friday
Eve time.
Friday. Okay, so Friday night U.S. time zone, Saturday Eve time.
FC,
What
can you
if
buy
I
back my...
absolutely can't do that?
Yeah, FC, can you buy back my negative status when we're done?
You guys will live.
I'm just kidding.
I did the same thing when I lost my sec status. I was true neg 10, like actually negative 10 when you mouse over it, not negative 9.905 or whatever the hell you wanted to call it. I was true neg 10 and I bought it to go defend Acti. It was sad, but once you rip the band-aid off, it's okay.
Just farm an ult.
Potting
Keep
people's
potting
the
it
best
around.
way. Yeah, potting ult's the best way to lose your status.
All right, that's it then for the Sota. Thank you guys. Appreciate everybody's time and patience. Thank you for coming and asking questions. I look forward to flying with you guys and working to make bigger, stronger, scarier FedUp in the future.
I also do want to say that thank you all, as always. You guys are amazing. And if you need to message me, please DM me. Like, I do check my messages, and I am paying attention a lot more than you probably think. And so if you have any feedback, positive or negative, please let me know. If you run into any problems, please let me know. Even if you're not an Aderon, let me know, and I'll wire you up to the right people. Everybody in leadership knows I'll just come and knock on doors until I get an answer.
Contra.
Yes.
So you're telling us that if somehow by the end of the war we have 300 bill,
Oh my god.
You don't have
to
300
buy
mil?
the Keepstar.
Horus like, bring
We're
me
gonna
my
blow it on
VNI.
Ashamus. That's if those guys would even sell it to us.
Let's
I'm
not
sure they
even worry
said-
about it right now, because it's...
Dude, you better start worrying about it now. That's a lot of ISK. We got to get ratting right now.
Fine.
For pure transparency's sake here, I will kind of briefly explain how FedUp income works. We get sub 10 bill a month from our awesome reaction team, and the corps have been using the ratting income to develop their own corp stuff lately, and we spend that money to provide ships and handouts and all that stuff, and there's typically sub 3 bill in the alliance. We are not goons. We are not GOTG. We do not have 100 people ratting all day, every day. We do not have 3 trillion ISK sitting in the bank. I do not have a Titan or a Super yet, even though I can fly them. That's the problem with faction warfare. You can't tax LP. Just like there was pointed out earlier that, right now it's good money to do an LP mission running. What sucks for faction warfare alliances, and I think maybe intentional from CCP because they didn't want the alliances to get big, is that income does not trickle to the alliance level, and so we are not a rich alliance. And that's just, that's the way it is. That's why we only SRP Logi ships, which is where a good portion of that ISK goes. We do try to SRP those, so you can always come out and fly for free if you want to. But we are not a wealthy alliance, and until something changes with Indy, that's the way it's probably going to remain. I wish to say we were like sitting on 300 billion ISK and all was well, but that's not how faction warfare groups work.
In other words, high-end stuff like that would require a concentrated effort.
It would require a lot of ratting.
Do it.
We've talked about doing some things for alliance level income. We talked about, and some of these go over well and some of them don't. One of the things that some groups do is they do a ratting fleet that runs, 3 or 4 hours, where they bump the taxes up to 100% and everybody jumps in fleet and they rat for 3 or 4 hours, and that pool of money goes into the alliance. But that's basically like people donating ISK. So some people say that's a terrible idea and they hate it.
Sound too bad.
Well, like I said, it's just a 3 or 4 hour thing. It's not a leave it on permanently thing. But I mean, yeah, we could talk about stuff like that. We can talk about other ways to develop that.
Wormholes, I like that idea.
I mean, if you're gonna get together, you might as well get together and do faction war missions and donate the LP.
Can we start an alliance directed ISK doubling service?
Absolutely.
Alright, guys, get out to Gita. Let's go.
Send it to Gondor is lit, and you have a 30% chance of getting 4 times instead of 2 times.
Yeah, and a 70% chance of getting jack shit.
I'll take
What,
that.
you mean it's a scam? No way.
You have a more than 1 in 4 chance of getting 4 times your money. Therefore, overall, you'll come out positive.
It's a 30% chance that you'll get 4 times instead of 2
Wait,
times, but it's a 100%
Who do I send my
chance that
ISK
you'll
to?
get
I
0.
missed that part.
Send it to Sventhena.
So if the guy actually pays, that's kind of a lottery in a way.
Yeah, man, I sit there and roll a d20. If I roll a 21, and you get ISK.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Now, is that including your stat bonus?
SRP.
Oh man, you're gonna SRP my Dictors? Holy fuck.
Dictors is going to be the next that I want to start SRPing for fleets. Dictors are going to die. Pretty much any fleet we go out as a fleet, they're going to die. So if we start getting a little bit more income from ratting from being up here, the first thing that we're going to start to SRP over that is going to be Dictors.
Sweet.
All right, guys. X-Ray's fleet needs to go up, I'm sure. So let's get to that.
Fleet is up. Hop in. Check MOTD for ships.